Hi. If you like this show, please help spread the word. Tweet a link to this episode or a link to the podcast in general to your friends, or share it with your friends, or find people who like R.E.M. or find people who like music or find people who like podcasts. We just really want more people to listen to this because it is a lot of fun to do. So if you can help us spread the word, that would be amazing. Thank you in advance if you decide to do it. And even if you don't, hey, you're listening, and we're so grateful you've done that too.
This is Gary Butterfield.
This is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to File Underwater, the show where we try to convince you that R.E.M. is America's finest rock band.
Yep. And this week we are talking about Document, which came out on September 1st of 1987, the same day as Michael Jackson's Bad.
Yeah. You know, Bad.
Yeah, it's a good album.
Yeah. Well, the Bad album. And the,
yeah, I didn't make that joke specifically
doesn't
because...
seem so smart to me.
It's very rare that I'm the one who decides not to do something because I know there's not going to be a way out of it.
But yeah, we're talking about Document, and this is the first record that R.E.M. did that I think is I think this is the most uneven one they've done.
Yeah,
so far. I don't know where you're at on that. I think that revisiting Life's Rich Pageant for the last episode, it was the second side of this is weaker than I remember. Mm-hmm. I think Document's kind of hard. Yeah. There's lots of things about this I'm not into, and it is a weird blip. Because a lot of the things kind of hallmarks of this go away instantly.
Yes.
And don't really come back. Even Monster, which is the closest they try to get into some of this weird kind of harder edge, I guess, stuff, is a real different flavor of that.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in line with you. We'll talk about it during the course of the episode. It is very strange, and I think it definitely suffers in comparison to the two albums that are around it. And also, it is bizarre to me that this ended up being their first platinum album. It seems like more of like Al Pacino getting the Oscar for Son of a Woman. It wasn't his best thing, but it was time.
Well, the Oscar people are all wild about hoo-has.
Yes.
And who isn't? Some shits are great.
Yeah. And also for the guy who played Robin in Batman and Robin, whose name I can't remember.
Yeah. Chris something.
Yeah.
It was platinum because of The One I Love.
Of course,
which is a really conventional, boring song that makes sense as a big hit because it's it's a real just pop song.
Yeah.
So this is as we mentioned, September 1st, 1987. So this was produced with somebody different. They couldn't get Gemin back from Life's Rich Pageant. Mm-hmm. And he suggested Scott Litt, who kind of feels ostensibly more in the wheelhouse. He's worked with the DBs. The DBs are not musical DNA wise that different from R.E.M. actually.
Yeah, the DBs are closer to R.E.M. than John Cougar Mellencamp was.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And he's also had hit making, kind of history because he had done Walking on Sunshine by Katrina and the Waves.
Yeah.
And Bubblegum.
which made him weirdly an easy sell to IRS. Nothing on our label sounds like Walking on Sunshine, but people seem to like that song. So
yeah.
And then this relationship with Litt would actually end up going on for a long time. He would be their producer up through New Adventures in Hi-Fi.
Yeah. So we're gonna, the new producer corner is not going to be a part of the show.
No,
for quite a while actually. This is always the producer that I associate with R.E.M. before I started going kind of deep.
Yeah.
Them because I just kept seeing his name on all the records.
His credit is also co-producer because the band themselves ended up being a little bit more involved in the process too.
Yes, and that is one of those in the books that I read is one of those classic R.E.M. things where there's conflicting information as to what exactly that meant.
Yeah,
I've read interviews where Peter Buck is dismissive of it and says we say that, but really we just kind of fiddled with some mixing boards and
we wanted it because we got greedy in our old age, I think is almost an exact quote.
Yeah. But then other people, then there are other quotes where it's no, we actually had a really distinct sound we wanted.
Yeah.
And we wanted to go for it. And the album weirdly enough, like this album has a very specific sound that isn't shared by later albums, which makes me think that like Scott Litt is possibly kind of a non-presence in general.
Yeah.
You know, like he can kind of do it all. He's kind of a chameleon thing because this doesn't feel like it has the same touchstones as Green, which doesn't feel like it has the same touchstones as Out of Time,
right?
Things like that.
Yeah.
So I think you just kind of can work with whatever direction the band wants to go in.
Yeah. Like Litt definitely came in with some preferences and with just some things that came like in the box. So he likes a big sound. Like he naturally just put Michael Stipe into the foreground more. You know, really played up his sound. And they're like, they just realized one day, man, Michael's really loud. And they just thought, well, we're okay with it. We didn't notice it before. Let's just let it happen.
Yeah, they go with it, which is, you know, another reason probably why this album did so well for them.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of just how music is recorded.
Yeah.
You know, so they did the series of demos in Athens, which we can talk about for a minute. These versions of these songs that are, you've had it noticed as like spacious and eerie, which is definitely true. They're also like, I think some of the most like punk R.E.M. has ever sounded.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's like they definitely got a lot of space in there. There's some weird kind of out of tune stuff, things that make it eerie, or just like missing vocal lines because they're demos.
Yeah,
that make it sound weird, but like it sounds really raw. It's like guided by voices-y. You know, like everything is kind of distorted but without production sheen.
Yeah,
so it makes them sound like a garage band.
There's one specific song that I think is a million times better in demo.
I think I like the demos for this a lot.
Yeah.
Actually, like usually that's not the kind of thing that I'm gonna be drawn to that much, even though I don't know if you've heard the ones for Out of Time. Out of Time demos are really interesting.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely get to that. But like generally, you know, a demo is not that revealing.
Right.
You know, we did the ones we talked about them for Life's Rich Pageant, which they were like semi-revealing, but mostly it was things that were drastically different. Like it was like different lyrics or melodies, or just unreleased songs.
Yeah.
Here, there's not that much in the way of unreleased songs.
No.
Like you get the sense that they didn't write tons of material for this album.
No.
You know, so, and that is aligned with our kind of thesis with like Life's Rich Pageant, where they wrote some extra material, but also went back to the well a whole bunch and did a lot of old songs. Like this might be the end of the R.E.M. Like we're going to produce 2 albums worth of material for a thing.
Yeah.
And just choose the best stuff.
Well,
that has dwindled.
It's super apparent too, because there's stuff here that is just straight up a holdover from even as far back as Fables.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So those demos are all collected, and they were on a bootleg, and they'll be in the show notes. You can find them on YouTube. I think they're definitely worth a listen. You know, and it's just kind of like it. You know, it really works in a lot of senses. Like the kind of restraint that's shown on those. Super good.
Yeah.
The actual album, they went on to record it in Nashville.
Yeah. Then they mixed it in Los Angeles. Like they are working not just in Mitch Easter's garage, but like in huge established places.
Yes.
Yeah. So one thing that I am really ambivalent about is Stipe's lyrics getting even more political. He would say, here's a quote. I don't know what the source is. I just pulled it from my book. The whole album is about chaos. I've become very interested in chaos and the hypothesis that there is order within chaos. So I guess that kind of carried over into the recording. A lot of this is crazy, super on the nose, even in a way that Life's Rich Pageant wasn't. Or if it was on the nose in Life's Rich Pageant, it was offset by maybe production or composition that was not as like serious and doom and gloom as it is here.
Yeah. This is. I feel like this is very kind of like a piece in a weird '80s way, like a Reagan '80s way. There's lots of songs and kind of art.
Yeah.
That had this sense to it. I remember one of my all-time, and like, you know, here's a Train Town tale. Like one of the most embarrassing things I've ever done was when I was in maybe like 9th or 10th grade. I was in an art class, and I was kind of always had this weird semi-friendship with a lot of like the skater kids, the skater punk kids. And there was a guy who was trying to, you know, was talking to me about bands and telling me about these kind of punk bands, and he was talking about like Dead Kennedys and Minor Threat and stuff, and how cool and political they were.
Yeah.
And then I fired back with like, man, you got to hear Document. Like if you want cool and political,
yeah,
you got to hear this. Have you heard about this Herrenhaus? Like,
yeah, so, something tells me the Finest Work song is not going to stand up to "Fuck You, Nazi Punks."
Yeah. Just California Uber Alles is arguably a more vitriolic, pure expression of punk than Exhuming McCarthy.
Yeah,
with its playful piano tinkles and such.
This is very much there was a really funny bit on dude where Seth was making fun of Neil Young, and it's very much the case here. We don't like the policies, the economics don't add up.
Yeah.
Like it's a little bit what they're getting here, and just it kind of strips away a lot of the mystery and obliqueness. And I think that like some of the best stuff lyrically on this album is where they do take solace in mystery again, where it is not them just getting up in your shit. I understand being political because you feel like you have to. You have a platform where you can make that happen. I think that the more artful way to do it is Flowers of Guatemala, not insert like 5 or 6 songs on this album. Yeah.
It makes it feel like it's just kind of too naked.
Yeah.
In the expressions, like it's a little bit too direct, a little bit too naked. That combined with, I feel like the songs not being super strong musically, kind of adds up to it not having, because either one of those things I think I could take, right? Yeah. Like if the lyrics were like at the height of his powers and were about these political things, but were actually pretty subtle, I would be into it. Yeah. Even if the songs were kind of lackluster. Alternatively, like, I can listen to a band that has really great songs and the lyrics are a little bit like I listened to Vampire Weekend. Those lyrics are stupid.
Or just like in this vein, like Look Back One album, Cuyahoga, super on the nose, but musically fucking gorgeous.
Yeah. And it's also got those little bit like a little evocative like turns of phrases that are not super on the nose. Yeah. This is just like I feel like there's lots of things that it's like a whole album that's the template for Ignore Land.
Jeez. How long has it been since I thought about Ignore Land?
Ignore Land. That's got to be down there with like, I talk about Radio Song being the worst R.E.M. song. Ignore Land is really rough.
Yeah. I think that I should probably go into witness protection after Automatic for the People, that episode. I'm probably going to have to.
There's so much stuff that I like about it. Like all the songs that have the Man on the Moon template, like I'm way into.
Yeah.
Like Try Not to Breathe, Sidewinder Sleeps Tonight. Like all of the upbeat stuff I think is great.
Yeah.
So it's there's a lot to like there, but like it's just that kind of, I don't know. And it reminds me of like when I'm reading about Radio Song, where I think that like, I don't think this is a popular opinion, or no one's ever said this to like those dudes, like, hey, this was a little bit on the nose. Like history is not with me and Cole.
No.
On this. Like, it's not like, they were like, yeah, in retrospect, that was like kind of a teenager's, or a college student's idea of hard hitting and revolutionary.
Yeah. Well, so there's nothing saying that it's not worth being said. Right.
Yes.
So they're on the right side of this stuff, and maybe at the time it was, in the like in the heat of it.
Yeah. And at the time, maybe it was a little bit like rarer,
Yeah.
But it's one of the things that I most dislike about U2.
Yeah.
Because U2 is like every one of their albums is like this. As far as the kind of lyrical composition, it's like so direct, so like political, and I understand the irony of either of us being like, hey, stick to music. Like,
Gary,
it's not that.
Like, I've had many like 5-minute, like dark 5 minutes of the soul driving and listening to this. Like, I'm gonna have to come out and say, like, maybe just chill it for a second, like, calm down. And people have said that to us, so I understand the hypocrisy. It's fine.
Yeah, it's just the way it's done.
Yeah,
that's not my favorite thing, and it's not like I dislike all the lyrics on here, but like I think this is so far probably my least favorite album lyrically that they've done, like pretty easily.
Yeah.
And again, it's a blip. Like there's tons of stuff I like on Green. Like Green, the lyrics are still direct, but they're not about Reagan, and the music like I like better. Yeah. So it just makes it kind of a stronger album for me. So when he's talking about this chaos and this kind of change, this is the File Under Fire album, to compare to Reckoning's File Under Water
Yep.
And,
or eponymous as file under grain.
Yeah.
File under feldspar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the book that both Gary and I are sharing, Inside Out, which is like a song by song kind of thing, they have a scan or a photograph of a document that contains a lot of it is a notebook page with possible names for this album. Gary,
they were having a hard time naming them, so they put up a sign in the studio that said "Name this album."
Right.
And so a lot of these were saved, but other people could write these down too. And they're pretty excruciating. Like Document turned out to be the correct choice.
Yes, it did. Yeah. Although Document to me sounds like a greatest hits album.
Yeah.
Like that title.
Yeah. And I think it was the name of our greatest hits. It's like they mentioned it's like maybe Billy Bragg or something.
Oh, it was an Alex Chilton kind of compilation thing.
Yeah. And it's weird because they have a lot of DNA in common.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alex Chilton and R.E.M. guys and Big Star.
Yep. But like Mr. Evil Breakfast.
Mr. Evil Breakfast is real. That would be very hard to, yeah. Or like Skin Up with R.E.M.
Yeah.
Like Skin Up.
Table of Content is very bland.
Yeah. Especially now that content is not a meme, but like content means something different now.
Yeah. Last Trip to Disneyland is one that Peter Buck was pushing for really hard, talking about how America was becoming like Disneyland under Reagan.
Yeah, what's going on behind those picket fences?
I'm not going to say that's never going to stop being funny, but it'll be a while before that stops being funny.
Because I think it's good because it's useful too. Like it definitely describes a certain kind of attitude. My favorite movie of all time is Donnie Darko. Donnie Darko's fine.
Yeah, it's okay. Point of Order, I think would have actually been a pretty good one for as political as this is. And then one that's jumped out to me, both because it was written in Sharpie on this paper and because it contains my name, Verdict Ross Gadabout.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really weird.
Yeah.
It's just like, the same thing. I think I've told the story on a podcast before, but I'll tell it again because I was thinking about Skin Up with R.E.M.
Okay.
My second, my last band before I left DeKalb, I was a band called the Midnight Snacks, and is kind of just a pickup band of people who were around, informed it, and we put out a record, and we were trying to come out with a name for it. And in our practice space in the alley, we found someone had taken a Polaroid of a man ejaculating, like in mid.
Wait, he caught it?
Somebody else caught it, like a photographer caught it.
Yeah, I mean that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. Like caught it like mid, like with a Polaroid.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to do was take that picture and then Photoshop us surfing on the product and call it Surfs Up with the Midnight Snacks. And nobody in the band would do it, but I thought it was like the funniest idea.
Wow. So I just had a realization. This goes way back, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Surfs Up with the Midnights.
The guys, and it's so frustrating to me now because it's like I think their impulse not to do it was like, oh, it's embarrassing, it'll get in the way of us being a real band. It's like, dog, like that was never gonna happen. Like,
right.
And now the only difference is I don't have this funny picture of me photoshopping out on this dude's scrub.
See, the thing is that could easily happen now.
Oh, totally. Like I could make it happen now, but it wouldn't be like the Polaroid we found outside of our practice. Like we had a practice, like we're talking about what to name the album, walked outside and found that picture. Like it was super kismet,
Yeah.
It was meant to be. And like, we diverged into a dark timeline when those guys refused to do that. Maybe the band would have been successful then,
Surfs Up. Also product. Yeah, that is a very good story. I don't know that I've heard that before.
It's a real bummer that it didn't happen.
So it wasn't called Surfs Up. It wasn't called Friendly Dinosaur District. It was called Document, as a shortened form of documentary, because Stipe, who was incredibly politically active at this point, was watching a lot of documentary, including the film coverage of the 36 Berlin Olympics, and also transmissions of the McCarthy hearings from the 50s.
Yeah, and reading books about that as well. Like there's like literal, pictures of him in the studio reading books about Joseph McCarthy.
Yeah, and there are also like stories of him, like when he wasn't doing takes, he would just be like posted up at a typewriter, just like getting his thoughts down on this stuff.
Yeah. Which in the typewriter shows up.
Yeah,
one of the tracks. It has such that kind of political bent that they kind of swerve into here is such a phase feeling thing, and that's part of why I think it clangs. Is it doesn't feel timeless. It feels like, oh, they're going through their politics phase.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not artificial because they're generally feeling that, but like that is when like you look at somebody and they're like, oh, they're into this for now, but I don't think it's going to have legs.
Mm-hmm.
It has that feeling to it.
They would remain political throughout. Primarily led by Stipe. And there would be conflicts about that. Like not everybody was down with Stipe being so vocal with PETA. You know, like it wasn't a thing, but like in general, that was what they put forward.
And I'll say that any of this kind of criticism or making fun extends exclusively to where it intersects with their songs. Yeah. Like the way that they are political in kind of words and deeds and like doing benefit concerts and shit like that. Like I'm definitely not going to begrudge them.
Oh, fuck no. Yeah. And like they would find like Water would find its level with Green. I think Green is a political album in a way that I can really get down with, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. And kind of telling having that kind of aggressively political song on that album, Orange Crush, which they wrote around this time. Mm-hmm. That's one of the only like the few songs that like, because usually you kind of get these tendrils into the future when you start looking at outtakes and live performances. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, we tested this, but it ended up on the next album. Orange Crush is on Green, and that's such a Document era song and was a Document era song. It just didn't make it up on this album. Mm-hmm. So and it works so much better as one standout. Yeah. Than a kind of a template for the record. I think.
Then as like the sixth punch in a 10-punch combo. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So this album was very well received, as we mentioned. Like critics loved it. It did really well. It felt like the band getting out of to the critics like a band getting out of their rut. Yeah. So at the very you get that sense of like, oh, at the very least it's different. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they lit themselves on fire, but at least it's different.
Yeah, exactly. Like I wish everything would change.
Yeah. Oh no. I wish I lived in interesting times.
Oh no.
Oh, fuck. Sorry, everybody. Yeah. And this was their first platinum album, so it climbed the charts kind of slowly. It came out in September. It went gold in December. And when it reached top 10, it hit number 9. Actually, and then by January of '88, then next year, it was platinum.
Yeah. And then so they toured for this as well. They had a tour called the Work Tour. Yeah, and that they did. And this was after this, it began their kind of longest period of not touring. Yeah, that they had. Yeah. This has been documented a couple of times. There is a live performance that's on the 25th anniversary reissue, which we'll talk about. There's also a official bootleg of it that has credits and stuff like that that's on YouTube. I don't know what this was called. That's that trailer I sent. To you. That's like a credit sequence for this tour, like some kind of bootleg of this tour that has better performances than the 25th anniversary CD does.
Yeah, that's kind of rough.
I hate it. It's like I think it's one of the worst things they've ever done. Like it's and this tour, like there's this it is this kind of like, and this corresponds with what I'm reading in the book where it's like and this happened a little bit last time where it's like, oh, everyone's calling them a jerk now. Mm-hmm. Like this felt like what people think of Fables of the Reconstruction era R.E.M. was. Yeah. Where like, there's kind of like more of them being a little bit hinky. There's more kind of this like bad hard edge kind of performance stuff, that it feels a little postury and not like as down to earth as I usually think of them. Yeah.
So I didn't see this in my books when I pulled it up. Like your oral history, I think, plays this up more. Do you have any specific details about to kind of back that up?
Yeah. The specific story they talk about is kind of they toured for a while with Camper von Beethoven, and there's this issue of like there being this bad blood because R.E.M. was doing a lot of stuff to cut costs, and the manager of Camper van Beethoven got a look at backstage at one point, got a look at their accounting for their tour, and they were authorized to pay the opening act $1,000 a night, but we're only paying them half that depending on the venue. Right. So they were getting, and this was when The One I Love was on the radio, and they were selling out the biggest shows they've ever done.
Yeah.
So they were making a lot of money. But they were kind of scrimping and saving on this. And then he got mad about it. And then they were just like, well, we don't, and then later he kind of recanted and said, like, I don't know who it was, if it was management, if it was the actual guys in the band, and it kind of causes bad blood between them. And there are kind of more stories of that in like minor ways of just kind of them being dicks. Like, there's a guy who came on tour with them, kind of like assisting, kind of started out doing guitar, the name is escaping me, doing like guitar tech stuff, ended up playing on some songs. And, was like really good friends with Michael Stipe. And he tells a story in this oral history about a lot of people being like, yeah, I was really good friends with Michael Stipe at one point too. Like, he doesn't like, he's got this reputation for kind of using people up and leaving them. And it's totally true. So just like watch your back, you know? And like, there's just kind of this a bunch of little stories like that. And I recognize there's some bias because these are all Athens people who aren't as successful. Yeah. So there's undoubtedly an element of jealousy going into it, but this is the highest concentration, this chapter of the book, that I've seen of people being like, these guys are being kind of dicks.
Yeah. And this rings much more true. And I am much more sympathetic to this than just like Athens scenes people saying, I sang through a megaphone first.
Yes. Like this feels more substantial than that. Like this is personal. Like the guy who was talking about being friends with Michael Stipe, like, he was friends with them. They had another person who worked on their tour, or worked in their management, who died of cancer, and like he like stayed home with them. Like the R.E.M. kind of assigned him to like, hey, we're gonna go record here. You stay in Athens and hang out with this guy, and be with them. Like this weird kind of like, outsourcing things that are weird to outsource.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a general tone thing. Like lots of little stories that just kind of feel.
Yeah.
Kind of cranky. There's good stuff in there too. Like I mentioned in the last episode about crying and driving, and like there's another guy who worked with them who played rhythm guitar on this tour, on the work tour, or played extra guitar. And the tour was going to end. He wasn't going to be able to be with them anymore. And he like talked to Peter Buck because crying and driving needed a musician for a tour, and R.E.M. kept him on retainer so he'd have insurance.
Oh.
While he was like toured with his other band. So there's still like kind of nice stories as well.
Yeah.
That make them seem like good guys. But then there's stuff like that opening band thing, which just like rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah. It's disappointing, especially because we, here personally, we're so invested in R.E.M. being like this working man's like, hey, we worked very hard and we're just good and put in the time until things happen for us.
I want to believe that these people who are so successful did it by not doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like not cutting corners. And like, I recognize this is one person's and it's corroborated in the book, but I recognize that like the truth of this could be more complicated, and it could be one management slime, who did this, but it is like just kind of the preponderance of those stories does make it seem a little bit uneasy.
Yeah.
During this period,
who knows if it's a visibility thing too, also because of their success at this point. Like just they're not that people were fabricating it, but just that it ended up being more talked about. Again, just because of, kind of scene inequality kind of stuff.
Yeah. And when we, I was talking about it, I think you transitioned to this talking about the live performances. Like the live performances, the one on the CD is really, really bad. Like the singing is bad. Yep. And the songs, like there's they do I Believe, and during the entire middle break, Peter Buck just plays the same chord for the whole time. Like there's just like fuck itness to it.
Yeah.
On the YouTube thing where they, for that work tour thing, there's a part where Stipe comes out and he's just like, and it's kind of a funny joke, but he's like, am I singing on key? And the audience answers. He's like, he sets up this thing where he's like, oh, everyone who thinks I am, say yes. Everyone who says no. But there's this like affect to it.
Yeah.
That feels kind of like, oh, we don't have to give a shit anymore.
Yeah. Like, so, on the deluxe edition of Document, there's a live show on that. They do a version of It's the End of the World as We Know It, like difficult song to do. Like Michael Stipe kind of painted himself into a corner with that, recording it perfectly and then having to do it perfectly every time. He fucked up like most of it and just kind of like mumbled and trailed off through all of it, and then ended it by saying, all right, I'm going to redeem myself. And then they went right into like begin the begin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just it's just interesting to see this kind of tonal shift. And what's most interesting about it is that like it's like they're trying on being this kind of big band, because the bootleg tape that happens for Green, which I think is tour film, is excellent.
Yeah.
Like it's like a really, I think it's like one of those like classic concert movies. Like it's a really good show. It shows the band why they're appealing, and they feel much more confident and less kind of jerky about it. Like it, and this feels a little bit like they're trying that on for size and not quite doing it.
Yeah.
To me.
And like expectations change when you're with Warner, you know, like that is, you know, a huge change for any number of reasons.
Totally. Like, you know, get your shit together.
Yeah.
4 boys.
4 boys. Yeah. But yeah, so they have this weird loose tour that all of the evidence of it is kind of loose and bad. They have a couple of neat diversions though. They have Time After Time and South Central Rain, which get these super stripped down versions.
When they play it with Red Rain,
yeah,
and that Peter Gabriel song as well, and it's kind of, they do it as a medley,
yeah.
There it shows up as a B-side as well, but it's cool to hear,
yeah,
you know, yeah.
So that stuff is cool, but just when they, I don't know, there's something about a great live performance where it feels like it could go wrong at any minute. You want to exist on the edge right before that, as opposed to, you know, watch the wheels come off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So around this time, the band started kind of swapping their instruments to avoid stagnation. This is something that would be more of a thing as they went into both Green and Out of Time. This is what kind of led Peter Buck to start messing around with things like the mandolin.
Yes. Yeah. Getting kind of sick of their instruments, and you can hear that. It kind of comes out. This is also, and we've mentioned this before in the Diggity Duck bundle episode, which you should buy if you haven't had a chance.
Where would they go to buy that, Gary?
Why? They go to Duckfeed.tv /store.
Yeah.
But you can pay $10. You can pay as much as you want. It is one episode of every show on the network. And you want to hear us talk about how Hindu Love Gods are America's worst rock band. You know, probably not, but it's a rough album, but interesting to talk about. Buck Mills and Barry ended up backing Warren Zevon on another album, Sentimental Hygiene. Yeah. Which we'll probably talk about at some point in some capacity, even if it's minor, during the next letters column.
Yeah. It's fine. I listened to it. It doesn't sound very much like R.E.M, but like it is a Warren Zevon album.
Yeah, I like Warren Zevon.
Yeah. Yep. Around this time, also, Rolling Stone labeled them as America's best rock and roll band, and put them on the cover, saying as much. So no more convincing. Rolling Stone has weighed in.
Yeah. Yeah. They're on the cover of the Rolling Stone, like that song. Cover of the Rolling Stone.
Yep.
Yeah. And Michael Stipe, who we talked about his friendship with Natalie Merchant from 10,000 Maniacs, and he recorded some songs with her on their album from this year. In My Tribe, I think is the name of that album. And, you know, was developing his friendship with them. And this is also when he started doing his separate bands, or separate van to kind of go from show to show. I mentioned this in the last episode where he's talking to that lady about, you know, Bill Berry being like, what do you do if the car breaks down? You know, it's like, we get him there no matter what.
Yeah.
Good, you know? But yeah, he's kind of like separating. It's not like, you know, dark times, in R.E.M. It's just kind of, you know, those guys are party dudes and I'm a weird art fuck.
Yeah. It's like, hey, here's the quiet bus, here's the party bus. Like Stipe kind of couches it saying, hey, they like football and I don't, which I don't know, it's a pretty fundamental difference, I think.
Yeah, I think that makes tons of sense. Like I would rather be if I'm doing this kind of thing, I need quiet time and like, you know, I would not want to be on the party bus all the time.
Yeah. I would like the ability to go back and forth.
I'm a switch.
My book goes into a little bit of detail saying like there were rumors about Michael Stipe and Natalie Merchant being romantically involved, and there was just a little bit of like, are they or aren't they, as opposed to would they or will they or won't they. It doesn't really add up to much aside from just traveling together and having this creative collaboration.
Yeah, which will continue for years. Yeah. Like they will see other appearances.
Yeah,
of them together.
And 10,000 Maniacs, I don't know if we've said it, a very good band.
Yeah, that album is really good. Yeah. And if you want to find like a good starter, I think I might have said this before too, but like a good starter 10,000 Maniacs song, if you think that they are super adult contempo and you only know them from These Days. Yeah. Or These Are the Days. These Days is a different thing. There's a song called My Mother the War. Okay. Which is like super good and like kind of like vital and punk and fast in a way that like belies their Natalie Merchant solo, stuff. But I've always had like one of my first tapes was the 10,000 Maniacs Unplugged album, and like I listened to that until it wore out. Like those guys a lot.
Yeah, I dug into it when I started looking into new wave in college, and then realizing, that is probably the side of it that I would go for.
Yeah. Yep, that kind of pop thing. Before we continue, this is an absolute non sequitur, but I have to say it.
Okay.
So I can close the window. When I got up in the break between these episodes, I opened up a browser. I was looking at the AV Club. Did you see that an Australian TV station looped the Simpsons dental plan Lisa needs braces thing for 4 hours?
Gary.
That's incredible. I love it so much. 4 hours.
For 4 hours.
Like I would have watched north of an hour of that.
Oh, I mean, I used to, like every year as a tradition, just leave the Christmas story on in the background, like during Christmas.
Yeah.
Fall asleep to it and wake up to it, always weirdly at the same time.
TBS
that I fall asleep.
Yeah, TBS does that.
Yeah. That would be. I don't do that anymore. Dental plan Lisa needs braces would be my new version of that.
It's so perfect. Like that happened, and unfortunately, I take it down. The account said, good news, bad news. Due to Facebook restrictions, we will have to stop the stream soon. Trust us, if we could, we'd run this forever. And can you imagine there just being a stream at all times of dental plan, Lisa needs braces, still, like the two genders, like the two, the two sides of any argument, like, the two anything, like the Remus and Romulus of reality, like dental plan and Lisa needs braces, like.
Oh no, it definitely is. There is something profound. So in the height of my like early college, I want to be an intellectual kind of thing. I got really into like philosophy, like anything that called itself philosophy I was into. I was at Barnes and Noble. I found a book called The Simpsons and Philosophy. It was like a paperback, like it was a whole thing. It was like The Matrix and Philosophy, or Cheers and Philosophy, or whatever.
Yes.
And it was just
one of my coworkers' husband wrote The Walking Dead and Philosophy.
Oh, okay.
Those are still going.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. It's just a bunch of essays and stuff. I could totally see, like, I would write a joke version of it, but it would be taken seriously, maybe, of dental plan Lisa needs braces, getting at something fundamental about the conflict of man's of man's primal needs.
And there's just that sense of like when you listen to something long enough where it just becomes sounds and loses meaning, and like it just becomes this kind of it's the same thing that like a meditation does, or like a koan. I don't know how to pronounce that.
I always say koan, but
but it has that same kind of property to it.
It really does. Yeah. Simpsons shitposting is one of the best things. It's a direct outpost of or it's a direct result of Frankiac, which is also the best thing. Like all of this is good.
I'm really into it. Like, I really wish that, like, kind of apropos of the last discussion with YouTube, like, I wish that Fox would tighten their reins a little bit, or like loosen their reins a little bit. And
I was gonna say, we couldn't agree, couldn't disagree more.
Would just chill out a little bit, because, like, I feel like a certain amount of Simpsons-ness just belongs to us all.
Yeah,
and it would be great if they chilled out on that, because I would love to have this this infinite stream. I would wait. Like right now, my home screen on my computer is the mock-up of the, Paul Rudd, routine thing from Tim and Eric.
Oh yeah,
where you can click on it. You can click on Celery Man, and you can click on Kane and mozzarella, and it gives you the little video and stuff.
Pretty good.
And I would change my home screen to the stream of dental plan Lisa needs braces if it existed.
Oh, of course, yeah. Just have a unmute button.
Yeah. I mean, or not. Like, or just go.
Yeah. And if I ever come across, to take this back, if I ever come across $300 extra, I would definitely love the Simpsons figures of Mike Mills and of the band when they were the they exist. They're out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Are they expensive?
They're pretty costly. I think they run between $50 and $80 a piece.
Okay, that is spendy.
Yeah.
I'll keep an eye out. Like if in the future, if I find an extra copy, if I find multiple ones, I'll.
No, I just even if I just had to get a Simpsons Mike Mills, I would totally.
But it's him in the jacket.
Yeah.
It's like he's wearing it's the monster.
Yeah.
So,
beat still my heart, please.
Yeah, absolutely. we can move on. I had to close that window.
No, like I really appreciate it. That was vital. This is coming out like a month after this happens, so like it's going to be preserved, and I hope people don't get too much FOMO about that. But,
oh yeah, we all messed up.
Yeah. So let's talk about the album itself. They named the sides all funny, like they do. Side 1 is Page side, and side 2 is Leaf side. And Page side opens up with Begin the Begin, but bad.
All right, I like Finest Work Song.
Oh, okay, I don't know that it's bad.
I actually think the song is pretty good.
Okay.
On this record, but judging on the curve.
Yeah. It just it feels like they tried the same trick a couple too many times.
Yeah.
And it pales in comparison to
I don't think it's as good as Begin the Begin.
Right.
It is much slower. I like the backing vocals on this a lot.
Mm-hmm. The finest of hours.
That is good. And it's just kind of it's real simple in a way that, like, I think the difference between this and a normal like R.E.M. song is those little breaks that they go into, like nothing really happens in them.
Yeah.
As opposed to Begin the Begin or any number of their songs that have like no real repeating parts. This goes back and forth between the verse and the chorus, and then like a third part that kind of shuffles. But those third parts that shuffle don't do a lot.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just Peter Buck going chuk, 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 on his guitar,
or doing these like this really super like bell tone, kind of just repeated kind of hit over it. Yeah. The thing that sticks out most to me about this is the drums. They are super boomy. I just wish there was better stuff going over top of it.
Yeah, I mean, I like the song definitely more than you do.
Yeah.
I do not mind what's going over the top of this. I think that this song is catchy and good, and not in my face politically as much as it could be.
Yeah.
As we'll move on to, like, and it's also something I think that phrase is kind of good.
Finest work song, or
I think I like that as like an idea, like, finest work song.
Yeah.
Like as a song, like it's self-referential in a weird way, and like that I dig. Into it. Yeah.
I mean, we can disagree. We're fine. It's like this is not going to be my least favorite thing on the album.
People hate us when we agree too much anyway.
Okay. Yeah.
So let's but here's what we'll agree on.
Yeah.
Finest work song, lengthy club mix.
What in what world?
What is this? Like, if you haven't heard this before, you owe it to yourself. It's a B-side.
Yeah.
It's like an 8-minute version of this that is kind of remixed to be dancey, but like
only barely. This is not a danceable song because it's still so plotting. Like, there's nothing going on.
The club mix of this is so weird.
It just adds like synth horn orchestra hits.
And when spaces things out in a weird way.
Yeah.
Like Michael Stipe will say like a line, and then before the next line was supposed to happen, they'll just be like some and then, like, he comes in and says the next thing, and it's like, literally, what is this? And what universe is this played in a club?
Oh, and also who is it for?
Yeah, who is this for? What universe? You had to ask you, where's the money? Who is this for? In what universe did this get played in a club?
Explain this, please.
Yeah. It's real bad, and the band like super goes to bat for this other version of it.
Yes,
that is the one that's on Eponymous. That has like the horns for the entire thing.
Yeah,
that I think is way worse.
Yeah, it doesn't fit the tone of it at all, and I think it undercuts. So if you're going for a super like self-serious, hey, the time to rise has been engaged, you do not like put in a super jaunty beatity.
Yeah.
Horn hits.
Like horns are kind of embarrassing as a thing. Okay. I think like if they're used, if it's not used sparingly, like a horn section on a song,
right,
gives it the sense of like
a horn section on a non-Motown song.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's it. That's it. White people experimenting with horns.
Okay,
like you're either a ska band, which go to hell, or
but Gary Superman.
Well, but or you are making a production that I think is going to instantly sound dated.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's exceptions that like you can have like one, the lone horn that shows up in the Airplane Over the Sea doesn't make in the Airplane Over the Sea sound dated, but a horn, like a big brass section.
Yeah.
Doing these like huge swells underneath these kind of just like, it's a bad arrangement. for the horns. It's like this is I actually like the song I like the song a lot. The two versions of it, the alternate, are some of the worst things that R.E.M. has ever committed to.
And it really sounds like it was a coin flip between the two of them. Like the way they talk about it, like, oh, it was just like our instinct or the way at the time we recorded both and decided to go with the one that didn't have the horns. Like they could have opened this album with that horns version.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's it's regrettable.
It's not the worst horn crime that's going to show up on the album either, though.
Oh no.
There's an acid jazz solo later, guys. Like,
Jesus.
Like, Document's weird.
Fuck me.
So there's a video for this too, we should talk about.
Yeah, this was the last single off of an original album on IRS. And they put out a real like Billy Joel Allentown kind of thing, except they're inside the factory with the hammers as opposed to outside the factory.
It's mildly less homoerotic than Allentown. It's also the last of like that school of R.E.M. video, though.
Yes.
Like the like montage R.E.M. video, and the other videos on this album are more standard and will become more interesting.
Yes.
So like we'll probably spend more time talking about the videos with this album moving onward, because it's no longer just going to be like, what if there was some stock footage?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like this is just what if people were in a fire and metal factory.
Yes. So the video is not great, and it's real on the nose because it's a work song. You know, it has work song in the title and stuff. Like, you know, it's super on the nose.
Yeah. It's one step. They take one step as opposed to a couple. Yeah. Welcome to the Occupation. So this is the third in the Hey, It's Fucked Up What We're Doing in Central America trilogy, following Green Grow the Rushes and also The Flowers of Guatemala. It is a fairly standard R.E.M. kind of song. It's very soft, very pretty. Definitely the most, let's say, just beautiful song on here. Like it's, yeah. I don't know. Gary used all my adjectives.
I don't know. I have a different experience with this song. Like I think that the verse parts of this are barkier than that, than to be like a standard R.E.M. Like, you know, or more percussive. Like here we stand, and here there's like a stilted rhythm to it that
here
doesn't
we
sound.
Stand and here we fight. Yeah.
Like that doesn't sound like standard R.E.M. to me.
Yeah. So like I'm thinking about that kind of combined with the like that usual cadence that they use that they do with this. Like it's varied. It doesn't fall into like the latter half of Life's Rich Pageant kind of, you know, doldrum kind of stuff. I'm using that in a really like thumbs up positive way, I suppose.
Yeah, it's more dynamic.
Yeah.
Than that. Like, yeah, it's hard. I mean, maybe judging on a curve, this is softer and prettier than Document, but I don't think of this as soft and pretty like The Flowers of Guatemala is soft and pretty.
No, or definitely not
or
Green
like
Grow
anything.
the Rushes.
Or Green Grow the Rushes, or like a lot of their kind of softer songs. But it is you know, that mid tempo. It's probably this and Disturbance at the Heron House are kind of like the mid tempo R.E.M. songs.
Yeah.
On this, but I like the song all right.
Yeah,
this is not too bad. Like it's you know, it's got good backup vocals as we mentioned, and like that main verse melody I think is actually really good.
Yeah. The chorus harmonies, where I think it's Mike Mills who rises while Mike Mills falls, and they kind of have that dissonance in the middle, you know, saying "Welcome to the Occupation." It's very good, and like this is a time where I think the music is like shored up enough for the for the relative specificity and on the noseness of it of the lyrics to kind of land for me, like saying, "Hey, fire on the hemisphere below," like that is A, talking about an actual thing, but B, like evocative enough and paired with this very dark music to make it really land for me.
Yeah. I don't think this is too much. Yeah. Because that fire on the hemisphere below thing is just kind of foreboding without being specific.
Yeah.
You know, he's got the line in this part where he talks about an annotated history. And when I was young, I always heard it as add a tainted history.
Okay, that could also
And
work.
I was like, oh, like that, you know, and it actually works like just fine to it. Is what I always thought.
Yeah.
And there's some weird kind of like controversy with the lyrics.
Yeah.
To this. The passage where they talk about it in the book I have is embarrassing. Where it's like, you know, because it's played up and it's like, you know, Bill Berry being like, man, Michael's usually pretty good, but sometimes I just think he goes too far. He had this line here where he says like, hang your freedom fighters. And I told him, I was like, no way. Like, that's too much. But then genius that he changed it to hang your freedom higher. And it's like, the whole thing is just like, guys, like this is, you guys are talking about this like it's heart surgery. This is like the greatest human account. Like you're dissecting this like it's Guernica.
And then like the book that I read, it went on and like there's a whole other paragraph of like Michael Stipe equivocating, saying like I in no way do I
meant like a painting.
Yeah, like a painting.
Says, yeah.
Like in no way do I support which were the wrong ones, the Contras. I don't know that anybody was really right, and I don't know. Fuck this. I'm doing a South Park thing. But he was like, oh, I don't support like the weird American forces down there. I literally just meant like hang your freedom fighters, and he liked the dual version of that, hang them like a painting, or hang them for their crimes, kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's very funny just for like Bill Berry to be like, no way, like that's too far. It's just kind of a strange thing.
Okay, so we can walk this back and say it's too far, or like that's just way too direct. Like that is a bad lyric.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been. It wasn't a good lyric beforehand.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to call it a genius now that's hang your freedom higher.
No.
But it doesn't make the song suffer.
Right.
Or anything from it or anything. This song has this one thing to note too before we move on. So like that was kind of like, again, really embarrassing. The end of this, like the plaintive like listen to me right at the end is great. I think that's like one of the a really good R.E.M. moment.
Yeah.
Because
it fades out as he's doing it. Like listen to me as it gets quieter and quieter and like fades behind. Again, this kind of like dark, low register kind of guitar arpeggiation.
Yeah. And just his voice breaks, during it a bunch. Like I'm always going to be into really, really straining Michael Stipe.
Yeah.
No. Third song, Exhuming McCarthy.
This is such a weirdo.
This is really weird. I like this song.
I'm into it.
I don't hate this. It's real bisected for me, where like I like the bubblegum verse parts a lot. The funky break I don't think is particularly good.
Yeah.
Which is it's just kind of the thing, but the beginning, the marching, that part of it, I think is really catchy and good.
Yeah.
And that's also when the lyrics are good. Like I like this, you're sharpening stones and walking on coals to improve your business acumen is a good lyric.
Yeah. And it's like repeated over and over again. Like, so they're writing this about, these weird little business seminars that people would go on. Like, we're going to walk on coals, those team building things. Like, I just imagine the song they would write if Burning Man was a thing at that
time. And then I like this, cause then, then it talks about, moving on, like that, it goes up a register. Where he starts talking about it. And I love referencing landed gentry in reference to this kind of stuff, because that's the kind of class consciousness that I can like generally get on board with.
Yeah. So this is up there in terms of like, we're just saying the names of things that we don't like on the noseness, but combined with like the super poppiness of it, and just making it sound like this really frivolous, kind of goofy, bouncy, like you can't get there from here, but with a political edge kind of feeling to it, makes it work for me in a way that it otherwise wouldn't. Like let's just make it kind of funky and throw in audio samples from McCarthy.
The funky part is what kills it for me.
Yeah.
Because it's like the verses are good, and it gets, real big, and he does the, Buy America. And then it does that thing. And this I love Mike Mills, but the like, it's a sign of the times. Like I just, it doesn't work for me. I think that part of the song should be excised.
Yeah.
I don't know what should go there instead. It has to be something.
Yeah.
But like, that's the part I think doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. And just like that lyric is very on the nose as well. It's a sign of the times.
Yeah.
It sure is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is an album that is like surrounded by stories of, we saw people who were drunk on the streets and, we thought they were dead, and like, think about how terrible it is. Yeah, it's terrible. I don't know that it's an especially potent thing.
That stuff was all over in the 80s. Like there's just that like wave, again, like that wave of consciousness.
Mothers on the streets.
Yeah. So and then I like the way that this so then there's the break, as we mentioned, that part with the thing from the trial that's there, goes back in with the horns. The actual end of the song I think is really good too, I always feel like I don't know that this is actually what the content it is, but the line where he's like, you've seen the start and you've seen the quit. I always thought of you as quick. Like I feel like that feels like a burn to me.
Yeah,
in a real good way. Like I don't know. Like yeah.
Yep. And super quiet at the end as they go out on the Exhuming McCarthy in the background of saying meet me at the book burning.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, so this whole thing, I can really get down with it. And it actually kind of feels appropriate today still, because we said it in the first episode, but like we started the series right after Trump got elected. They were reacting to this Reagan style American exceptionalism and contrasting it with kind of like reviving the Red Scare and just kind of like, just this witch hunt that was happening because, hey, it's everything right is back again.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'm super down with it, and I kind of feel like it still works today.
Yeah,
for as dated as the production is, and as the references
the production's dated, and some of the stuff is a little bit too direct, but it is they're reacting to similar anxieties that we're to what we're having.
Yeah,
yeah.
One
to get down with.
Yeah, I think this is good. Like it is super weird. It feels like a novelty song, but it sticks the landing for me.
It's also nice to not have everything be so like this song is really centrifugal, where it's like a lot of things are real dark and serious, and then a lot of things are like straight up super goofy, and the points in between are kind of rare.
Yep.
And especially on the first side. The second side has more kind of weirdo stuff.
Yeah.
But you look at something like Fireplace, which is just like really dark and serious, and then but then it's like this and strange, like pop up and it's in the world as you know it, which make things, it's real black and white.
Yeah.
I think maybe that was the point. Disturbance at the Heron House is another song. Yeah.
It was very funny to read about Michael Stipe talking about this, because this is, I think I like the lyrics in the song quite a bit, actually. They're properly vague, properly mysterious.
And they're journalistic.
Yes.
Like it's dialogue. It's not it's not just saying things. Like it's interesting. It's like prose.
Yeah. And Michael Stipe was like, I think this might have been an art fuck move, saying this is the most obvious thing I've ever written. I don't understand why people think this is a mystery.
This is the fourth time he says that about a song though on the show. Yeah. Like he keeps doing that, and then like he's like, oh, somebody got it, and I hugged him in the street. Like that's a real Stipe thing.
Yeah. But like his stated intent with this is to talk about like a dire outlook on free will. I don't know that I see it see that. I think that it is just it is very a little bit on the nose, talking about like, hey, the followers of chaos are out of control. Like, okay, that is the through line.
Yeah. It's I think that this by kind of telling a story with this and using kind of dialogue and having this narrative section to it, it is probably the only song that avoids that kind of like too much directness.
Yeah,
that's on the album. I wish it was musically more exciting. To me, like I think the song is just kind of like stock standard R.E.M.
It's pretty straight up the middle for them.
Yeah. So this is something where the lyrics actually do elevate it a little bit for me, but not enough to make it like something I want to jam to.
Yeah. So yeah, I can see that. How about that title though? Like that sounds like a rejected title for a Lovecraft story.
Oh yeah. And like the idea, like that's not a thing,
right?
It's not disturbance at the National Monument. Like that's referenced. They talk about that essentially. Like it evokes this idea. It actually reminds me a lot of Belong. Which is going to come up on a time where it's like, those creatures jump, like it's that woman, those creatures jump the barricades, they're heading towards the sea. Like it's that journalistic, like describing a disaster thing. And with this song, one of the things that comes up in the book is he talks about when he does these apocalyptic songs, how he dreams a lot in those terms. Like he has a dream about like blasted cityscapes and ruin, and he's like talks about how it's like he can, in those dreams, he can kind of close up on small details and kind of has this photographic memory for it.
Yeah.
And you see it come up like in these things. And I love that detached, like just describing in an impersonal voice what's happening.
Yeah. I mean, it's like feeling gravity's pull, we saw that like that's entirely a song about that.
Yeah. And I love that. Like, I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
I just wish that the song was a little catchier.
Yeah. There's an annotation on Genius that is unreviewed, but it is upvoted, so who knows. They're saying that Herrenhaus is a possible pun on a German word, Herrenhaus, Herrenhaus, which is like a manor house or a mansion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, who knows? I like Herrenhaus talking about the bird, too.
Yeah.
Like it is a good dual meaning.
Yeah, no, I mean you just like birds. Like it doesn't. It doesn't.
What,
it doesn't make any more.
Just like bird. It doesn't.
Yeah,
it's not that it makes more sense. It's more evocative.
Do you think? I mean, it doesn't make more sense that it would have a bird thing. I think you're just happy because birds are getting represented. Like, why would there be this political uprising at a place for birds?
Oh no, I mean I'm picturing a house that is like it's the name of the place. It's the Heron House. You know, like that's just what they call it. Like Mount Vernon. Like this is the Heron House. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like birds. I do not appreciate you minimizing. Don't just use that to hand wave away me liking anything related to a bird, please, Gary.
Just enjoying the fact that birds are getting their due.
Why are people talking about birds?
Like, hey guys, hey kids, talking about birds.
I'm part of the bird lobby.
Yeah,
which I guess would be the National Audubon Society.
Yeah,
I guess I could. I don't know. Maybe I'll join them.
You could make that happen.
Yeah,
I'm surprised you haven't already.
Me too, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Strange.
Yeah. This is a weird one.
Yeah.
When growing up, I didn't know this was a cover.
No. It doesn't sound like R.E.M.
No. It doesn't sound like the original at all.
No.
So this is a Wire song, which is an admitted influence on R.E.M. Yeah. Like, we talk about them having songs that are kind of like Wire.
Yeah.
The original version of this, which I hadn't heard until I was doing research for the show, because I like the idea of Wire, but I don't, I don't go in deep on it.
Yeah.
There's other bands that are kind of contemporary that I like actually listen to more. Like I've listened to more Minutemen than Wire. Like I listened to more Husker Du than Wire. Like for some reason Wire hasn't super done it for me or enticed me. So I didn't really know the song. It is a weird song.
Yeah, it's super sludgy.
Yeah.
I'm kind of into it, actually.
I think I like the R.E.M. version of this better. I think like reimagining it as like a bubblegum song is kind of more fun to me.
Yeah.
At least it feels subversive to take this thing that's like very serious. You know?
So certainly, like they're different enough that both of them can exist, and like to me, I can see them both as being pretty like equally valid.
Yeah. I think the thing that kills me with the original version I don't like is the vocal. Like he's got this real sneering kind of sour.
Yeah, and Stipe is definitely picking that up.
Yeah. He does a little night. Like it does have that kind of
it's incredibly nasal even for him.
Yeah.
I do like the backing vocals on this. It's a very simple song. It just kind of goes back and forth a couple times. But the backing vocals are great as always. And there's like this like boogie woogie piano that just kind of picks up at a couple of points. And it's always kind of nice when it shines through.
Yeah. I like how the backing vocals are. It reminds me again like that bubblegum. It's like a 60s thing where it's like bet it. It makes it sound like a Mama's the Papa song or something.
Yeah. That sounds like Superman to me.
Yeah. Which is good. Like I like the song just fine.
Yeah. We've kind of glossed over this, but this album has solos, Gary.
Yeah. For better or worse. Like there are solos. Like, I'm not a big fan of the guitar solo in general. I think that R.E.M. is better when it's like, let's just do 1,000 different parts rather than replace one of those parts with some guitar wank.
Yeah. I don't want to listen to a song and then just immediately say, and spotlight on.
Yeah. But it is in line with them being slightly more conventional.
Yeah.
With this record. So.
I really, really want to talk about It's the End of the World as We Know It.
Yeah. So this is the last song on the side. And this was the second single, I want to say.
Yeah, the first one was When I Love.
Yeah. And this is great. This is one of my favorite R.E.M. songs.
Oh my gosh. Like, so my story of getting into R.E.M., I probably heard Losing My Religion on the radio, like driving in the car with my mom when she wasn't playing Garth Brooks or whatever. But like getting the Tommy Boy soundtrack and listening to this just over and over again because it was featured in the one scene where they didn't know the lyrics.
Yeah.
But just like, yeah, well, I'm gonna learn these lyrics and I'm gonna listen to it over and over again, just laying in bed. And it is still one that I go back to. It feels so R.E.M. and I feel crazy, Gary. I feel like I am just like blowing hot air by saying good things about the song everybody knows.
Yeah, I think most people like this song. Like, I think this is, if anything, like, people won't be sick of it, but it's not, it's pretty hard to dislike. I think it's really charming.
Yeah.
And it is, it's nice because it's not, it's the opposite of everything on Document.
Yep.
Like, it doesn't take itself seriously. The lyrics are non-literal.
No.
It is, pretty straightforward as far as verse and chorus, and the chorus is this huge soaring catchy thing that they kind of stopped doing. Like the one I love, which is the next song, it has a big chorus that is this plaintive keen. This is really a dynamic melody that comes through with a nice counterpoint in the backing vocal, which is like, I like to, if I do this karaoke or something, like every once in a while you throw in that backing vocal instead of the main vocal.
Picture being a 9 to 11-year-old quiet boy who hears a song where a key lyric is, "It's time I had some time alone."
Yeah.
This resonates with me a lot.
Yeah, it's extremely good. Like, I think this is a really, really good song. My high school band covered this, and I learned how to sing it and learn the lyrics and memorize them. Yeah, it's super good. It's funny because we did, when we heard the early versions of Bad Day, which is also, it's similar to this. It's not so dissimilar.
They both share a similar antecedent, which is a song called PSA.
I think PSA is just an alternate title for Bad Day.
Okay.
I think it's the same song.
Yeah.
But they're not, I don't think they're so similar that they both couldn't have existed. And it's both a direction that I like R.E.M. going in. I don't know. Like, I think this just kind of works for me.
Yep.
In a way that I can imagine people thinking this is like children's music or something. Like, if someone was going to not like this, it would be dismissing it for being too light.
Yeah. But then if you listen to what he's actually saying, he's describing horrifying things.
Yeah, it's another kind of apocalyptic.
Yeah. Obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the video for this a lot too.
Oh, it's so good.
This is the first video that I like from R.E.M.
Oh yeah, like it doesn't have a story, but it has interesting imagery and it has a through line, as opposed to just being like overlays and fuckery.
Yeah, like it's a gangly teen who is in a ruined shack in the middle of nowhere, kind of going through the junk in the shack.
Yeah, just picking it up like a dog shows up, and it looks like he sings Leonard Bernstein.
Yeah, and the dog is friends with him.
Yeah.
And then he gets a skateboard and tries to do some skate tricks really kind of embarrassingly. And it's really endearing the same way like a teen can be like a baby deer. Yeah.
Yeah, just real gawky. I love the way it opens up with somebody doing the opening drum rolls on a globe.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it kind of, it's a really good video. I think I think this is the first good R.E.M. video.
Yeah. Like we just described the entire story, but it is just cool imagery, like looking at detritus in a ruined place.
It's kind of an interesting counterpoint to their let's do some stock footage, because it's still kind of montage theory stuff, where it's
mostly single shots in a similar environment.
Yeah, exactly. It's not stock footage because the stuff has a blandness to it that isn't like a studied, blandness that like stock footage has.
Yeah.
Where it's like, here's an anvil. Like, it's like, no, this is like actually just kind of like a lot of it's just garbage.
Yeah.
And it actually does the thing that you want to do with montage theory, montage stuff. Like, I don't know if it's specifically theory, but like montage stuff, which is recontextualize something.
Yeah.
Based on its surroundings. And this, I think, actually works.
Yeah. And like, there's like R.E.M. stuff like mixed in with the garbage too.
Yeah. Yeah. Like posters and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So initially, like, Peter Buck hated this specifically because of Michael Stipe's delivery. Saying like, yeah, it is such a departure. He eventually would turn around and say like, yeah, it's kind of like Subterranean Homesick Blues. I really don't like the way Stipe describes his vocals on this. Like, I want it to be completely the most bombastic vocal that I could possibly muster. Something that would completely overwhelm you and drip off of your shoulders and stick to your hair like bubble gum. Gary, is Michael Stipe describing his cum?
Yeah, I don't know what he's describing. Yeah. It's definitely like when somebody describes themselves really seriously, like in that respect, like I just feel like,
it's a little,
I don't know, like let somebody else do that. And, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like that's like a music critic could do that. Yeah. And write that if they wanted to, but you shouldn't do it to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's yeah, I love this song. It's interesting too because that Peter Buck hating the vocal delivery and stuff, the kind of cramming in as many words as possible into it, because the song is actually the chord changes are really slow.
Mm-hmm.
Like he is doing, you can imagine one of the things about those Out of Time demos, and we'll get to this when we get to Out of Time, is it really sheds tons of light on the band and how they write songs, because they're not demos like, hey, we went in the studio to cut demo versions of the songs. They're the tapes that the rest of the band made for Stipe to listen to come up with lyrics to.
Yeah.
And you get to finally hear those recordings. And I've read reference that's how they write songs. Like the three musicians get together, make a thing, and then give it to Stipe, and Stipe comes up with some words.
Yeah, when in the later part of their career, they would live apart from each other and just mail tapes around.
Yeah, just like this is and the you could see Peter Buck being like this. This is a G for a long time, and then a D for a long time, and I was expecting that to be like slower vocal takes. Like put in 12 words in there instead of 30.
64.
Yeah.
And you can hear this in the demo. Like there are no vocals. It is just like everybody but Michael Stipe.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's good. Like it's a great song. Yeah. Leaf Side is the second side of this and begins with their biggest single to date, which is a song I have never liked. Even when before I was sick of it, I've always thought this is a bad, boring song.
It's fine. So we're talking about the one I love.
Yes.
So this is a song that everybody must understand. It's like, hey, ya, or what is that? I would
don't stand so close to me, or
Born in the USA.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a love song by a sociopath. Is what the lyrical content of this is. It's very repetitive. And I think that pays off in the final verse variation. Michael Stipe thought that it was way too brutal to record. So like there's a line in the first like couple versions of the verse where like, hey, like you're a simple prop to occupy my time. The verse goes and goes and goes. And then the last one is another prop is occupy my time. So people were playing this for like the first song at their weddings, not understanding that it was about using somebody and then leaving them by the roadside.
Yes, which is fine. But there's not enough here remotely. Like, I think that if you want to talk about that, like I don't know, like he just says it 6 times and that's the song.
Yeah.
Like this is way too simple to be good. And both parts of it I think are boring. Like I think so
the verse and then the fire.
Yeah. I don't like either of those parts. Yeah. I think the fire part is fine, I guess, but it doesn't have that, like, again, R.E.M, like there's 17 parts in the song. Mm-hmm. It's kind of complicated moves. It doesn't move anywhere. Like it just feels like it's just going to go back and forth between these two parts that are very slow and only have a couple chords, and then it's going to end.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I think this song is really boring.
Yeah. So, I like the guitar part an awful lot. Just because it does an awful lot with very little. If you look at the tablature, the chords for it, it is a lot of kind of just messing around on open strings with it, kind of creating these. It feels almost like a throwback to the way that Peter Buck would play guitar on the really, really early stuff, where like a good number of the notes that he hits are just open E and B. As he is kind of messing around with it. And so for that, I really like it a lot. I think the bass kind of activates, but the thing that everybody's paying attention to and the thing that like is brought forward the most is the vocal delivery, which once you know the trick, it wears very, very thin. I agree with that.
I mean, for sure. Like the trick is, but he says it like right away. Like the trick happens real soon. It's not, I think that like, another prop versus a simple prop thing that comes along is not as maybe revelatory as it needs to be. Like calling somebody a prop and then saying like, hey, I've got a new prop. Like they're both calling somebody a prop implies that there will eventually be another prop because they're just a prop.
Yeah.
It's already done the burn. It's already done the devastating lyric.
Yeah.
The new one that comes along doesn't recontextualize the early one enough for me.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I always like when growing up and everything, and like a lot of people being way into the song, like always kind of bummed me out. for R.E.M. and just being like, no, the guys, Driver 8. Like, there's like, they do much better songs than this. Like, that, and it's so counter to like those early R.E.M. values of like, this is going to move. This is going to sound kind of like edgy and twitchy. And like, this is so far apart from the part of the band that is the Chronic Town part of the band. That's like, if we slow down, we'll die, and that's so important to me. Like, this is just, it's weird. It's like the first like heavy but slow song. Like Feeling Gravity's Pull, but that's such a different beast. I mean,
yeah, but like, this is the first heavy but slow one that like they would eventually come to be known for. And
that it only has 2 parts.
Yeah.
It's like it's a verse, a chorus, and a solo. I don't know. It's just this is too simple for me. It feels too simple to be good.
Yeah. And
like Kumbaya.
Yeah. I don't know if I feel as strongly about it as you do. It like in the pantheon of R.E.M. singles, like this is down there for me. But like, if anything, and I feel like I said my piece about the guitar part, and then there's also the tone. I would much prefer this as like an instrumental more than anything, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would be cool. Like, I think that if the parts that are in here could be, for me, and this is, what do I know? This was a chart topping single, but like for me could have been salvaged into a song I liked by just adding more.
Yeah.
Having these be parts of a larger whole would be kind of cool. Like both of these parts would be a cool outro to a song that was a little bit, or like the fire part could be like a cool outro.
Yeah.
To something, Yeah. It's, I think the video for this is really embarrassing too.
I didn't realize this until somebody pointed it out in Slack. Alton Brown of Good Eats fame and also Cutthroat Kitchen was the director of photography. So he was not responsible for the content of what we saw. No, he was responsible for making the director's desires look acceptable on film.
Yeah. Which is what a weird career path that guy's had.
Yeah.
The video is like, it's some of like, just kind of like, footage of the band playing with lightning strikes superimposed, like lots of kind of my first video tricks.
Yeah.
And then there's a little bit of a narrative between 2 people. Like if you want to show 2 people in a video, and I know this is true for the 80s, but I bet you it's true for now. I wonder if there's a way to make their haircuts not look dated as fuck, like 30 years from now. Because both these guys, like this guy, like the chorus parts where it superimposes his face on her face, and he's doing that like falling to his knees like Darth Vader, like fire, like, and he's screaming to the heavens. Like, I just think it's embarrassing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
the trick might be take whatever a current hairstyle is and then just like rewind it about 20 years. I think
there's
might be
a formula.
Yeah.
But like, it's just like this poodle haired woman, this like, super, super dorky sleeveless shirt guy pining after each other.
Yeah.
In this video.
Yeah. Intercut with footage of statues and people dancing in windows.
Yeah. It doesn't work for me. I don't think it's a good video. Like, I don't know. Again, huge hit though. Like, it's important.
Yeah.
And there's that part where it's like people, he'd look out. There's a story where he talks about people not getting the lyrics, like we talked about, and like looking out onto seas of people and having couples like kiss and hold hands to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's the Born in the USA problem, like we said.
Yeah. Which, but didn't drive him crazy like nobody getting Disturbance of the Heron House did. For some reason, but probably because if you like literally, you had to be so willfully ignorant to think of this as a love song. Like, it's really clearly articulated.
Yeah.
You don't refer to people you love as a prop.
No. Like you literally just hear the first line. There's a great video of Meatloaf explaining the line from I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. Like, saying he is infuriated by people saying, I don't understand what that is. Either saying that it's, anal sex or, like killing a person or something like that. And then he like spends 10 minutes explaining and breaking down. The entire verse is saying things that somebody is asking him to do or would be natural to do in that situation. But then entering with the refrain of, I would do anything for love, but I won't do those very things that I just said.
Yeah.
It's
you have to listen to verses, people.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
You don't have to be like the dork that I was as a young kid reading liner notes, like, resting in between like two stereo speakers that you put up on either side of your head. like I did, but just a little bit of context would be really good.
It reminds me of there's those that YouTube series that like Everything Wrong With YouTube series.
Yeah.
Or like those are like the Cinema Sins things.
Yeah.
Those things are pretty obnoxious. And there's a guy who does breakdowns of those.
He
and
does
really
counter
great.
critiques.
Yes, and they're great. There's 4 of them I think now. He does it for Age of Ultron, The Last of Us, the video game, because somebody did a Cinema Sins thing of that.
Okay.
But Sherlock Holmes and another one I can't remember. But the thing is that half the things where someone's like, this doesn't make sense, is explained like a second, before or afterwards.
Yeah.
Like if you actually pay attention to the work, the answer's right there.
Yeah, if you weren't diving for your fucking phone to take a note.
Exactly. Yeah, or to make some like shitty joke about mostly misogyny. Like I didn't realize how much of those things are just like, Black Widow is a worthless bitch. It's like, that's essentially the joke on most of those.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's no good.
It's irritating.
Those things suck. You know what else is no good?
Fireplace.
Here's a rough one.
No.
Yeah,
no. I wish you hadn't, R.E.M.
Yeah. So this is, super, super dull and repetitive lyrics. Mm-hmm. Just like, crazy world. Yeah, sure is. It's a sign of the times. Crazy, crazy times. It's a lot. Why did they put this next to the one I love? Because it's the same fucking structure. Stop doing this, R.E.M. This isn't you. I'm your friend. And I'm not going to let you do this.
You just did it over and over again.
Yeah, stop doing these 2-part songs that just go back and forth between 2 parts. Like you're better than this.
Yeah,
that's boring.
It's so dull. It is so dull. And also, if you're going to do that, might I suggest never using a saxophone?
And not having an acid jazz sax solo.
Yeah.
Your song.
Honestly, you might as well have just dropped trow and shit in the middle of my back seat as I was driving to work.
Or the middle of your back.
Yeah. I mean, some people pay good money for that, but I forgot because, I'm going to go through this on a whole thing. Like, oh, this is totally a skipper. And so is the next one. Like,
the next song is really bad too.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're on the same page with that. Cause these 2 are rough. Like, and the thing about Fireplace is that like the not crazy times. It's like, hang up your chairs to bear sweep, clear the floor to dance, throw the walls into the fireplace. Like those are individually good lines with nothing surrounding them. Mm-hmm. Like if whatever song, alternate universe those lines came from of another song, I want that song.
It feels like they just like, grabbed a portal to the future, made a Markov chain, like did like a deep learning kind of thing. And then just like input dirge. Like, just give me a dirge. Yeah.
I mean, it's an extremely bad song with a really bad solo in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Lightning Hopkins is super fucking embarrassing.
Yeah.
These woes that, again, I keep thinking of U2. Mm-hmm. This thing. So it's this drum like, and then this like super, super reverb, like a bunch of dudes doing this chorus, this kind of own thing.
Yeah, like Gary, I think literally this is the only good part of it. The O's.
It's fine. I think it sounds really dated is the thing.
Yeah.
It's like good, but it doesn't sound like it sounds really 80s to me.
It sounds really 80s. It doesn't sound like Michael Stipe. It doesn't sound like Michael Stipe like singing a character as Sonic the fucking Hedgehog.
Well, yeah, the actual verse and the lyrics to this are extremely bad too.
Well, yeah, they're admittedly just fucking nonsense, which nonsense would be fine if it was, again, paired with something better.
Which is what happens in the next song. Like all these songs are segueing really well into each other. I don't want to move on from Lightning Hopkins.
No.
Like, so that O part is kind of good. I think it sounds dated. Again, I want to see the song it surrounds. Mm-hmm. When the actual like verses come into this, it is too sneery and empty to be good. Mm-hmm. Like this album and a little bit the last album, like where I'm starting to feel like these are albums that don't have enough. I mean, the last album did have enough A+ songs to make the album.
Yeah.
They just didn't use them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like, let's throw in some kind of like some nothing songs instead of like developing, a theme from Two Steps Onward or something. Those songs don't even exist. Like there's not outtakes to this. The only B-side that isn't a remix or something like that is a cover. So it's like I feel like in a sense, like they didn't have enough songs to do this record.
No.
So we have to do Fireplace and Lightning Hopkins, which are like, I think, really bad songs.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. A last side of this that was just the one I love, King of Birds and Oddfellows Local 101,
It would be like an 8-song album though, and like
make it an EP. You're fine. Lots of bands do a mid-career EP.
Yeah, I mean, like there's too much at stake for that with where they're in a band.
Yeah,
I wish they would just slow down enough to write some songs.
Yeah,
and then it would have helped with this kind of the seaminess of this record. That kind of like highs and lows kind of thing.
I just think that if they did anything other than these two songs, like for all of the sins of the other songs that we talked about, and we've been not unkind, but we have been relatively unforgiving, I think, with those. I do not understand the thought process behind either Fireplace or Lightning Hopkins, especially. So I alluded to a song that I really, really love in demo that I don't like in the actual produced version. That is Lightning Hopkins. The instrumental version of Lightning Hopkins is good.
Yeah, it's not uninteresting,
right?
As a thing, it's just you could see it like not finding the vocal for it.
Yeah,
which makes sense. Like it's not a song that has a lot. It's real twitchy, so there's not a lot you could like sing over it.
Right.
You hold a note over a lot of this during the verses. Like about this, like this place on this record, like the first side of this album, which I guess we've been like semi-critical of, but I like a lot more than the second side of it.
Oh yeah.
In general, like I think that's like other than being a little lukewarm on the middle three, like having like minor reservations. I like all the songs on the first side of the album.
Yeah, like
Disturbance of the Heron House I like, even if I think it's a little bit boring. Like I like all the songs on the first album. The second side of this album I like 2 songs on. Like it's I
like the last 2 songs.
Yeah, I think those are really good, but I think most of the second side is like, it's not like Life's Rich Pageant where they're kind of forgettable. Like I think, and we can disagree on the one I love, but I think this 3-song set is 3 bad songs I don't want to listen to. Not like, oh, they're forgettable, but I can take it or leave it. Like I think these are actually bad.
Yeah.
And it pulls up, but it's like, and it pulls up in a weird way too. They're not like big closers. It's they're weird songs.
Yeah, but
that's why it's interesting.
They're weird in a way that I am accustomed to, which I realize is a contradiction of terms.
Well, they're weird R.E.M. weird songs.
Yeah.
It's like King of Birds. We've heard the demo version of this. This was a March song on Life's Rich Pageant. But the lyrics actually bring this together.
They're great.
Put this together, and the lyrics are very good.
Yeah, talking about finding a mean enough idea.
Well, and that's used above too.
Yeah.
That's in I think Disturbance of the Heron House.
I believe so.
Where they're a mean idea.
Yeah. So it says something about the overall body of the song that I can forgive the presence of a dulcimer, which is just a couple of steps away from a sitar.
Yeah, there is that kind of, but it matches the instrumentation. Like this is that weird stunt R.E.M. like, Swan Swan Hummingbird or something like that.
Yeah.
And the lyrics are really abstract, which I really appreciate. Like doesn't feel political.
Old man, don't lay so still. You're not yet young. Pretty good.
Yeah.
That is a standard R.E.M. trick where they will directly contradict themselves within the same line and create some synthesis. Yeah.
And the second verse that does that, like, kind of turns in that kind of weird round. As it's seen the chorus and the round kind of comes in. Like, this is a really cool song.
Yeah.
This is very good. And I like the way when it comes into the kind of final, verse of it, like the I am the king of all I see part, it kind of clears up, like the music kind of clears up, and it sounds, kind of more dramatic than it would have.
Yeah.
So it's repetitive, but it's not. I mean, I guess like if you look at it and actually look at the lyrics, it's as repetitive as the last 3 songs.
Yeah.
But what it's repeating is cooler.
Yeah, and also they're like repeating it with a different treatment. Like the arrangement, there's plenty to be said for that.
Yeah.
You know, like
that stuff changes.
Clearing it out, like obscuring it for the middle part of it, and then just like letting it really fly home. you know, straight and obscured is a good move.
Yeah. You know, it works. Like this is a really good song. This is one of my favorite songs on the record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also really like Oddfellows Local 151.
Yeah, I like this song a lot too.
It's so good. It's obviously a cast off from Fables.
The music like definitely sounds like it was written about those weird winos that are around when they were recording. Mm-hmm. So lyrically is earlier in that, and I think the chorus to this is not very good. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna say like the firehouse, like stop, you can't just yell fire for every one of your fucking choruses.
I think there was a Supreme Court ruling about that.
Yeah, you can't. It is your freedom of being a songwriter only extends as far as not yelling fire for all of your fucking choruses. But the lyrics here are sublime. Mm-hmm. Like this, I think this is actually like so weird and so good and so brooding and dark and kind of scary sounding.
Yeah.
That like the verse, it's a rare case for me where like the verses will totally redeem kind of a shitty chorus.
Yep.
That I'll sit through in order to get more of like the kind of story parts of it.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah.
No. Wash off the blood, wash off the rum, wash off the blood, wash off the 151. Fucking amazing. I love it.
Yeah. It's super, super good.
Yeah.
You know, and then just like he sits on the wall, you know, like it has this like surreal, like kind of sense to it that is like, feels like a gravity's pull kind of thing. Mm-hmm. This dreamlike logic to it.
Yeah.
That I, super love.
Yeah. No, I will always be in the camp of dark R.E.M. Like, give it to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause it's dark without, dark and not, dark like Everybody Hurts.
Yeah.
Give me foreboding.
dark, yeah. Everybody Hurts is like a super saccharine kind of dark. Like, yeah. I don't want there to be you just give me full dark, no stars, no light at the end of that tunnel, please.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, it ends on a good note, a weird note again. Uh-huh. Like it would be like Fables ending with Old Man Kenzie or something, and like Fables doesn't. It ends with a really sweet song. Mm-hmm. They decided not to do that because you thought R.E.M. couldn't rock. Like this is R.E.M. being kind of dark and edgy on purpose.
Yeah.
But I'm just really glad it pulls up because the second side of this record is such a bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we should do our, let's talk about this B-side before we do our favorites and least favorites.
So the B-sides, as we mentioned, there's this kind of dearth of material for this. The one B-side that's a non-album like remix or acoustic version is a cover of the song called Last Date.
Yes. That's a cover.
I believe that is a cover. Let me fact check that live on air.
Yeah, go ahead and fact check that. Sure. So listening to it, this is an instrumental. Like a lot of the B-sides are. I didn't mean to go Porky Pig on that. But it is a sad piano and country guitar. It's like a little it would almost be like a sad piano ballad if there were any vocals to it. It's nice, but it sounds like production music to me.
Yeah,
like
this is a 1960 song by Floyd Kramer.
I have no idea who that
is. It is an old country guy.
Okay.
Yeah, so it is definitely, and there is a vocal version of it, but R.E.M. didn't do that version. Conway Twitty did a vocal version.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I could see it being cool with vocals. I'm curious what the lyrics are. It's pretty, but yeah, it sounds like what would play over, somebody driving home to his wife who he thought he was going to leave.
Yeah, it's real slight.
Yeah.
And that's like literally like a band that has like a lot of extra material and stuff like that. Like it's telling that the 25th anniversary version of this just has that terrible live show as the second disc. Like there's nothing else to draw from, and that sucks.
Yeah.
It's a bummer. Like I don't think they had enough good songs to do this record and make it actually great.
Yeah.
It's still a record I like the things I like about it make it worthwhile.
Oh yeah. Like the highs are high, but the lows are probably as low as
excruciatingly low.
Yeah.
As low as they've been. Yeah, I don't think there's a song on any of the albums previous that is as bad as Fireplace.
Yeah, or Lightning Hopkins. Like, there are some that I would skip because I was eager to get what was past them. There are very few songs prior to this that I would just skip out of disgust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some embarrassment going on this.
Yeah. Disgust is pretty, I mean, that's a pretty strong word.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
It's like besties and worsties.
Yeah.
On this.
I mean, so My bestie, without any restraints on this, would have to be It's the End of the World as We Know It, just because like that would be like a time capsule song. Like, you know, if I needed to communicate to somebody what I love about this band, specifically because I have so much history with it. Does that feel fair, or do you want me to pick a less obvious one?
Like do a runner up, just because that would be my pick as well, and otherwise we're just going to be saying the same best and the same worst.
Yeah. Let's see here. So it would have to be somewhere between Welcome to the Occupation or Oddfellows Local 101. I'm going to give the edge to Oddfellows Local 151.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to say, so if I can't do It's the End of the World as We Know It, maybe even Finest Work Song. Like, I like that song a lot.
Okay. I'm sorry I said so many bad things about it. I just didn't care for it.
No, happy to disagree about that.
Yeah.
But I like that song a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then, negative one, if, I can't do, what do I like least? I will do the, because I really don't like The One I Love. I think it's a really, the song's really underwritten.
Oh, wow.
To me.
Okay.
I just, it's not as embarrassing as Fireplace and Lightning Hopkins, but like Fireplace and Lightning Hopkins are at least them like regrettable experiments.
Okay.
The One I Love is such like a guy like busting out an acoustic guitar at a party song. Like,
yeah,
it's so coffee shop boring. Like, Fireplace, at least, that sax thing is something R.E.M's never done before.
Mm-hmm.
I wish they'd never do it again. I wish they'd never done it.
Yeah.
Like, it sucks, but it doesn't seem like the kind of thing you hear all the time.
Yeah.
And then Lightning Hopkins has that weird drum bit, and it kind of sounds like their version of like 9/9 for this record.
Yeah.
Like, it has that kind of guitar thing. Whereas The One I Love, I just think is too boring to live.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm going to go Fireplace. I can't get with you on The One I Love. Like, I'm not crazy about it. It is not in my favorite R.E.M. singles, but I think that there's a place for it. Maybe Fireplace. I don't think there's a place for it. If your experimentation is throwing in like a crazy acid sax thing, sorry, you're not Baker Street.
Yeah.
At least Lightning Hopkins.
Well, Baker Street, like the sax is like the main melody thing.
Yeah.
This is just
yeah.
So when people make fun of jazz, this is what they're making fun of.
Yeah. And outside of that, is not like that is dragging something down. It is literally, again, just a dirge. Lightning Hopkins, at least there is the blueprint of a good thing there with the demo that we heard. I really wish that Michael Stipe had never recorded that vocal. But I think the other stuff there works and is okay. But yeah, Fireplace, no.
Or like, I think there's a way to do like a speak singy percussive vocal that isn't quite so sneering that would have been okay.
Yeah.
For that, like, he just didn't.
Yeah.
Like it just, needed
it was on the bubble in Strange, and here it's just no.
Yeah. Yeah. And Strange, I think, is much more successful. At the very least, is like catchy.
Mm-hmm.
And like has that little self-referential lyric.
Mm-hmm.
That Michael's nervous thing, I think, is kind of cute.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's for people who think we're going to go all Dark Souls 3 on this podcast, like, I love Green.
No, I love Green. Like, I love Out of Time.
This is not a nosedive. It's just a weird step for the band that like is hard to call 100% successful.
Yeah. No, there are bright times ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And dark times, like the band, but it's kind of interesting to have a step where it's like, oh, the band's kind of uneven now.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to be good and bad albums now, or good and albums that have at least like a couple of things that are like embarrassing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad to revisit it because it is, I loved it growing up. Like, it wasn't, it wasn't until I became kind of an adult and revisited the stuff that, even things that were, like, I was never like, yeah, Fireplace, Lightning Hopkins. But I remember listening to it, not blinking when I was young, and now that I, once I started listening to music a little bit more critically, I was like, what are you trying to do?
Yeah,
like, excuse me?
Just please explain yourself a little bit.
Yeah. Like, hold up.
Okay. Wait a minute. Yeah. No, I listened. So, Document as a whole album was kind of a late acquisition for me. It mostly existed in singles for a very long time. Yeah.
I can see them making a difference.
Yep.
Because but yeah, I'm really looking forward to talking about Green, and there's a lot to talk about with the band joining Warner Brothers.
Yep.
So that's going to be a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Join the WB.
Yeah. Man. Cool. So thank you everybody for listening to us kind of, I don't know, vent about that. Sorry if, we took a shit on something you really enjoyed. I'd be curious if there's something amazing about Fireplace that we're just not noticing.
Yeah, or like the album in general, like if and Liam will let us know. Like it's if that's the case, if there's something like we're missing, he'll mention it.
Liam will give us a very playful, but very I think well reasoned, or at least well cited, kind of defense. But yeah, it cool. is. I'm glad we got a chance to talk about it. If you like this show, please, let your friends know. If you have other R.E.M. fan friends, let them know. Spread the word, ratings, reviews, all those things are very helpful. Really do appreciate that. Yes. Also leave us a rating or review on iTunes. Gary, I don't have that plugged into our widget because of cost reasons, but they're very nice reviews if you go and take a look at them.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so thank you everybody who has done that. It takes you just a moment to go and at least leave a rating or review, and it does help us out. In addition to that, this show is only possible because of Patreon. That is a crowdfunding platform that gives us recurring revenue, so we can afford to do shows like this that we're passionate about, but do not get huge listenerships. So go to Duckfeed.tv/Patreon or Patreon.com/DuckFeed.tv. Either of those work, and whatever you can give, we very much appreciate.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's about it.
I think so.
Yeah, thanks a lot for listening, and until next time, it is the end of the podcast as we know it.
And we feel fine.